Hey everyone, welcome to Advantage Point, the series where we unpack how smarter systems and sharper thinking create strategic advantage. This season, we're exploring one of the trickiest challenges in SaaS, scaling fast without breaking the very operations that keep customers happy. Now, here's why that matters. Bain and Company report that 80% of growth companies hit serious ops friction within the first 2 years of the big spike. And Deloitte also found that 60% of SaaS leaders say they're leaving money on the table because their workflows can't keep up with sales. But the good news, the ones who systemize early grow nearly 2 times faster and with less burnout. So here's the question we're asking today. What does it really take to scale SaaS without breaking ops? And how can AI in story first thinking help? Now, joining me is someone who lives this every day, Maury Rogow, founder and CEO of RIP Media Group. Maury has helped more than 200 brands go to the market, produce films showcasing Tribeca, SXSW, worked directly with the creator of the Batman franchise, of which I'm a huge fan of, and he's even had acting roles in Entourage and Ocean's 13, and the list goes on. And if that wasn't enough, he's also the author of a new book, Selling in an AI World. Your story is your superpower. Maury, welcome to the Advantage Point.
It's great to be here, Daniel. Thank you for having me. This is going to be a great conversation.
I look forward to it, possibly more than you do, or you are, Maury. But before we dive in, how did you first get into the world of storytelling for fast growth companies?
Absolutely. So was always with fast growth companies. So I started off in high tech, long before I was in Hollywood. You started off with, a high tech company. And what happened is they had the same problem again and again and again. Large companies had it, and then I'd go out and I'd meet with smaller companies. They had the same problem. And that is, if you can't differentiate yourself from your competitors, the customer doesn't know what to do. So they'll buy the cheapest price or they'll buy the existing relationship, right? I know them. This one confused me. They had a 90-minute PowerPoint presentation that bored me to death. It was all about them. I don't know what they're going to do for us. I'm going to go with the folks that I've been with. Thank you very much. See you later. And so if you're not different, if you don't stand out, then you lose. And so what started happening is I was at this big company and all of a sudden I'm one of the salespeople. They started asking me to train the, kind of the new people that were coming in. And then who was coming in? Some of the seasoned reps, some of my peers were sitting in on my training. And I'm wondering, why are they here? They told me, you do things differently. We got our training. We got sales training. That was all product. It was all product training. They teach us features. They teach us this. All you talk about is the benefit and the transformation from where people are to where they want to go. And so it didn't mean an incredible amount to me at that time, but I kept doing it. And so that is what sort of led me on the path. That's how I started telling the stories. And, it was a transformation story. It's a before and after bridge, these different types. And I helped that company grow. I left, went to a much larger company, same issue, helped them do their presentations, started creating videos for them, started selling. I was a regional sales manager at a tiny startup and we exploded in growth. And I'm not taking credit for all of that. It was an incredible product, incredible team, incredible company, but changing their presentation from that show up with a 60-minute PowerPoint into a let me show you something for 3 minutes and talk to you for the rest of the time, get your stories of pain, your stories of what's needed, and then come back and tell those stories. Our sales, instead of being a year and a half long, started being 3 months, 6 months faster, 3 months to 6 months for a whole sales cycle. And so it was a quarter of the time to revenue. So it was amazing. And I realized after a while what I was doing. And I thought, let me go to the big stage. Let me move to Hollywood, California. Let me start to tell stories there. If I can do it for, corporate and technology, what can I do in Hollywood? And so I ended up telling stories there. And now I do both. Tell stories for brands to help them grow, make trailers for their products, that kind of thing. So that's the
Awesome stuff. And it reminds me of, because I did read up about you before you came on, and reminds me of one of your mantras where you say, if you confuse them, you lose them. And that's what you were saying earlier on. So no, that's absolutely true. And again, I look forward to the conversations we'll have. And guys, like I say, I never shared the questions beforehand. So everything that is coming out from Maury's mouth is unfiltered. So you're getting his raw expertise and experience. He's in the hot seat, but I'm sure he'll smash it out the park.
Let's do it. What's next? It's always a great conversation. I've talked to you for a few minutes here and there, and I've gotten to know you a little bit. So it's always a great conversation. But please don't let me hold you back. Ask those tough questions. What do you got?
Will do. Okay, so here we go. Your new book makes a powerful point. In an AI-driven world, storytelling is the founder's superpower. So for SaaS leaders listening, why is it risky to lean on AI before the core story is nailed?
What a beautiful question. Honestly, truly well-crafted question. So why is it important to lean on their core story before they talk about their AI and their product? I feel like the answer is so obvious, maybe I don't have to say anything. But the thing is, let me say some things about that. The story, when I say your story, and your story can be your superpower, I truly do mean your story as the founder. And I'm not talking about I wanted to raise, $40 million so that I could create an AI so I could become a billionaire. That's a horrible story. That is a good one for you. And personally, absolutely fine. You, your family, your friends, you can live on that. That's great. But your customers don't want to hear that. Your customers want to hear something like, you ran into the same problem again and again and again, and you couldn't solve it. So you put together a team to try to solve it, and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. You failed 3 times and almost went bankrupt. But then an investor came in, helped you fund the right engineers, and now you've got a product that's supporting 1,000 companies using automation so that you can help people save time, save money, and the guys and the women that work there can go home and be with their kids at night instead of working 14-hour days. So I made that story up, but that's your hero's journey. You need to be saying why it's important in terms of why it's important for your customers, why it's important to them that you put all this time into it. And most people don't want to hear about just success. They've gone through the lumps. We're all under, this is one of my 10 rules of a story, right? So I have my 10 rules of a story, my stuff, hopefully we'll talk about the emotions that actually sell. Everybody thinks of themselves as an underdog because we are. We've all gone through hardships. Some of us have gone through horrible things in life. So being relatable, another rule of story, is amazing. You want to be relatable to your customers. You want people to be able to relate to you. You don't want to be some pie in the sky sitting on a throne person that nobody can understand. You want to be relatable. And so if you're the underdog, you took your lumps, you went through it, and you did it to solve a problem that's big in the world to help other people. Well, that's an amazing story. Then you've got people's attention. Then they're engaged. Okay, tell me how you do it. That's what you want to hear. Okay, tell me how. Tell me what the next steps are. That's what you want a prospect to say or a customer to say. Then you start talking about how it works in the transformation. But instead of just talking about the bits and the bytes and the feeds and the speeds and the how many NVIDIA processor, GPUs you have in your data center and that kind of thing, talk about the transformation and talk about yours first. Talk about theirs. Then you've got the foundation set. Again, that's one of 11 core stories actually that you mentioned that are in my book. So you've got to have your founder story that rock solid so that you can talk to people about that and they're engaged. You got to talk about the before and the after of multiple customers. And you've got to be able to walk in. If you're walking into a bank or retail, you need a bank or a retail example, right? Or somebody in a very similar situation. So before you, then this happened, and after, here's where they are. And you never want to position yourself as the hero. The customer is always the hero. You were there to help. You were there to support. You're Iron Man's suit, right? You're Wonder Woman's, lariat and, shield, that kind of thing. You are there to support. You're not the superhero. Make the customer the superhero, and they'll follow you down that path. They'll follow your story.
Awesome. And I know obviously you've been around quite a while and you've had loads of different experiences, but can you think of any examples where you've worked with a firm and the tech stack looked really strong, but the story gap kind of killed the momentum? Does any particular example spring to mind?
Multiple. I was multiple. And it's, now we call it product market fit. We didn't know exactly that terminology, over the last 20 years that I've been doing this. But today it's really clear. So what's the product market fit? And I can think of a great one. So there was a company that I was with them and basically met with three guys at a taco shop, a Mexican restaurant in San Diego. I was living in California at the time. Come on down. Can you meet with us? So I drove down. And they had this amazing idea, and they'd been operating for about 18 months or 2 years. They built this entire tech stack, and it was all about, to them, it was all about facial recognition and reading numbers and signs, but they were selling to insurance companies. They were selling to sort of everybody. And I just sat there looking at them, and I thought, they're missing the entire story, and they're missing an entire market because they don't know how to tell this story. So I pulled it together and I said, they thought the value was in their cameras, the camera that could go and scan, right? And again, this is a solid 10 years ago. So hear me out on this. 10 years ago, this was really far reaching. Today, facial recognition and, this sort of thing is 100%. A little more commonplace. But back then I just said, the value is not in your cameras. And I thought they were going to kick me out, right? I said, the value is in the data that those cameras see, just like you did.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? The value is the data. You're seeing license plates. You're seeing people. Can you recognize a criminal from another state? Can you recognize that car was stolen from another state? Can you recognize? And that's actually what they went with. So we started digging into the product. What can it do and what market could we go after? Well, they really honed in on that, and they honed in on the data. They ended up having 100 million records stored that they didn't even correlate to their product. They ended up selling that instead of, and the cameras were a peripheral, right? All the other competitors were selling our cameras, high definition, it can do this, it can read license plates and faces. They said, we have the database of 100 million records that have, from criminals to stolen cars and this. So it was facial recognition, it was license plate recognition, and for who? The police, the FBI, that kind of thing. So they started selling, and then they went to who else would care about this? It's the insurance companies. They turned from a few 100,000 in revenue to 100 million in recurring revenue. And during that time, my team and I became their marketing department. So we did their messaging. We did all the content creation, told their stories for them at trade shows, on their website, emails, all that for years, until Motorola, a large, global company, Motorola, purchased them for over $500 million. So everybody at that table is basically retired now.
Yeah, for sure.
They did quite well. Yeah. Those three folks and many, many of the other folks that were there. That's a really powerful story, in that if Absolutely. You're not telling, right, if you're not telling the right story, people will be confused. There it is. You confuse them, you lose them. And they were trying to say, look at all this great tech, and people didn't care. And they said, we have this particular solution to this particular problem for this particular market. And I refined that. And now I use that and help people with their elevator pitch, which I can throw an example if you prefer, if you'd like. I can throw an example out there. Just make one up.
Well, go for it. Since we're in the flow, go for it.
So the way I had them and other people do their elevator pitch or say their elevator pitch, imagine if you're at a networking meeting, right? And it was 10 years ago with these guys. We have this great technology that blah, blah, and who cares? I don't even understand what you're saying with these codecs and all this. How about major problem in the world that we can solve for this market so they get this benefit? So it would be something like, and again, I'm truly making this up because we've done hundreds of these since then, or if not thousands, is, by the way, I put this at chapter 1 to get in the book so that people would really be able to get something right up at. So it's, if you're talking to law enforcement, it's state to state in the United States, they don't share data. We have all the criminal data and the cars they drive, and we can locate where they are at any time. So we help you catch the bad guys, put them behind bars in less time, less expense than ever before. Yeah. Again, that's an off the cuff, made up version.
Yeah.
But you kind of get the point. Or if you're a construction company and you're build, what do you do? Oh, we're in construction. What if you're talking to one of the biggest developers? You just happen to be
Mm.
talking to one of the biggest developers in the area. You want to say, most developers have a real problem with construction companies because they show up and then they leave the site for 3 weeks and they start billing you anyway. What we do is have a rock solid scope of work that we follow every time and have built over $100 million worth of commercial properties in this area so that we help you build, make money, and move on to your next project. Something like that. Big problem. We do X for Y so they get Z.
See, brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Maury.
Welcome.
Right. Thank you. Here's another one. Again, given your success, like you've just given the example previously, I'm sure you've worked with companies that have hit hypergrowth. So, from your vantage point, what usually cracks first when growth outruns ops? Is it client onboarding, delivery, keeping revisions under control? What is the first thing to give way, in your opinion, would you say?
That's great. So I'd say, honestly, I would say people. And I'll use my own company as the example. So I knew after helping other companies build that I was building my own agency, right? So it wasn't just me, but other consultants and folks helping out there. And so I always built on it's people, process, and systems. Do we have the right people in place? And for me, I want people that love what they're doing, not that even necessarily can bring in the most revenue in sales. I want them to love what we do, and then they want to do it while doing it. And I want good people, meaning in their heart, in their minds, that kind of thing. So no prima
Yeah.
donnas, no bad attitudes, because truly the bad apple not only spoils that bunch, but they leave the mold in the, in the office for the next week. You got to get rid of them fast. So only good people is a mantra of ours. So people, and then the process is, you've got it's nice and it's neat if there's consultants, in your audience and listening, and they do something different every single time because it's interesting to them. The problem is it won't scale. You can only do that so many times before you run out of 24 hours in a day and you hit exhaustion. So you need a process. And so, for example, when we're creating a story or a commercial or an explainer video, I'm just going to use that one piece because everything has a process. Process is discovery. We design the solution, we deliver, iterate, and then distribute. So it's discover, design, deliver is the simple version. The real version is that means, and behind the scenes, we have these 7 steps. So we do the discovery process and we have forms we go through. Then we go through and we write a sample script, have approval and iteration. We then go ahead and once there's script approval, we then go off and get the voice created with a voice actor. And now I have my voice software. So we use the voice software to do it. Male, female, old, young, accent, no accent, multiple languages. We have the art frame. So art, and then we do the full storyboard, get approval, either shoot the video, go and film it, or we do it in animation and then do the whole mix. The video, the cuts, the editing, the sound design, voiceover, mix it all together and deliver. And so it's, I've been doing this for so many years. So it's discover, script, voiceover, art, storyboard, and final mix. So that's it. In our Google Drive, it's laid out like that. Everywhere we go, it's laid out like that. And I call it the green light production process. The green light process. So that's the process. Now the systems are the third area. And so that's everything you've got. How are you billing? Is it easy? Is it short? Are you relying on people to do that? So no, I want my QuickBooks we put it in there. I have an accountant. She puts it in, it bills automatically or sends out reminders. Okay. That's that system and process. What are the systems now? We're using a lot of things like, Replit and Manus and obviously GPT-5, different AI tools that we're testing all the time, but those are systems. The systems, to me, come last, but they need to be built first to support the process, to support the people. So the people are first in my line of business, right? Who's there? Are they great? And they follow these processes. The systems are there to support them. And I want them interchangeable. This one starts failing and this one's doing better. We can plug it in. So to answer those based on my three pillars, the people are typically the ones that fail first. And so when we hit our hyper growth, I put out, I want to have $1 million business when I was early on. And about 18 months later, we did $1 million in the first quarter of the year. So again, as an agency, that was really good. That's really great growth. And $1.25 million, my systems could handle it, but my people couldn't. So what did I do? I started hiring as fast as I could, which is always a bad idea. You want to be slow to hire and fast to fire. So I started pulling people in. A couple of them were the bad apples, bad seeds. And, that permeated and we outgrew ourselves. And until I cleared those folks out and replaced them with people with the right attitude and work ethic, then we started growing, even more.
Wow. And I think my follow-up question is, I think you've answered it already. I was going to say, if you could replay one of those moments, what would you have set up sooner? So I think you've already kind of answered that to make sure that you don't have the bad apples, right? Slow to hire, quick to fire. So you already answered the second question without knowing it. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But I want to say those are the three pillars. But if you don't have the right systems, like, I think it was ridiculous that I had say this, my accountant was saying, why are you spending so much on these, at that time, the project management system, the CRM? And I said, because my vision is to be this big. I want to be handling 60 projects at a time.
Sure.
And what we have right now can only handle 5 or 10, and they'll start to crash. People lose things. So I built for that level. So that's why the systems and the process stood even to this day. We still use the same ones. It was the people that caved. So what's more interesting now, if I was building it today, and I am rebuilding, I'm putting AI in place everywhere. It's taking over a lot of people's roles. And this was a tough time. I mean, I had to talk to people and have these conversations that, it's not that they're not effective anymore. It's that they're not adapting and learning the new tools and the new systems. So it used to be, right, people driven, but now AI can do so much. We can create a list of prospects, go through, qualify them, start emailing them, all without an SDR rep sitting there, over a month. I can send thousands out in, a day or a week at this point, customized. And, as one example. So what has happened lately is, again, the people haven't adapted or haven't adjusted, and they're the ones that I'm really in fear for, that they're getting left behind, because I have to adapt. If I don't adapt, I get left behind. There's no more business. So using AI and the proper systems is even more important today.
No, awesome stuff. Awesome. And you've actually kind of coming on to my next question, really, because you've said, here's a question.
Yeah, maybe you should have sent these to me.
Yeah, I should have. What's the bloody point? I may as well have, basically, at this point. So my next question is, so you've said that when someone leaves your team, you now test AI first before rehiring. So for SaaS leaders, how do you decide what AI can safely own and where you still need human talent? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because as great as AI is, it can never compensate for the conversation we're having now, unless we're in the year like 4020. I don't know. But there's still that human element. There's that Maury that you bring that AI, well, certainly at this moment, can't do so. So I'll shut up and let you speak.
Sure. So the way I would answer it is, it's not that I can replace entire people typically, but I can certainly replace parts of people's functions and parts of jobs with AI after, serious testing. And the way I looked at it is, what is repeatable and what's scalable right now? Are we doing the same task again and again and again? Do we need to be doing that? Do I have to have human hands on that? Do we have to touch that? If not, then I definitely want to replace it with, I'm just going to call it automation, but really it's AI systems, things like that can go like or make, where let me check with this and do this. Did I get the result? Let's try this. They're at least 8 long just to create something as simple as a blog. And then we have the human go through it, and now they're an editor, and then they mix in some of the SEO, but it's not like I'm paying 150 or $250 per blog like I was not too long ago. Now it's 15 because now they're proofreading and making sure it's original, because I don't use anything that pops out of AI as
Of
is,
course.
right?
Yeah, of course.
It's still,
Crazy.
we're not at that phase yet.
No.
We will
Yeah.
be, I think, but we're definitely
Yeah.
not there now. So is it something is it a persistent problem? Is it something that's, helps us scale? And is it something that's repeatable? I mean, can we repeat it? So I look at it like that. And I also look at what are those real problem areas, because people don't really want to do these things. They're tedious. Again, it's the definition. It's tedious. It's repetitive. So unless they love it and for some reason want to take a really low pay to do it, we got to take a look at using automation to replace. And that's how I go through the decision-making process.
And just to play the devil's advocate here, have you ever had a task that you thought AI could handle, but discovered it still needed a human touch?
Of course. Of course. Don't come back after me, AI, in a couple years. At this point that you're still a baby, yes, there are definitely areas that again, I can think of many. One that I just brought up was, writing blogs and writing emails. So it's not ready for prime time just to take it, sort of hot out of the oven and then just send it out. All
Mm,
need an editor, all need an extra look on it. But it is helping us, I'll say, iterate and do some of those repeatable process. On the highly creative areas, if we're really coming up with a new campaign, a new attitude for a brand,
yeah.
it is helpful. It kind of gets us thinking in, I'd say, a more structured way and some really creative ideas. But that word creative, when it comes to AI, it still doesn't resonate well with me, and certainly not with my team. It can create, but it's not creating something brand new, which is a whole AI conversation. I don't know if you want to go on this tangent with me or not, and you can just cut me off.
No, no, go for it. Go for it.
Is AI creating something new? Are they really creating, or is it creative? If I go in and I ask it to create I use knowledge bases for everything. So here's how I use, let's say it's GPT or, Mana, some of these. I have it give me the prompt. So I say, I need to create this. And let's kind of use a campaign. I need to create a campaign. Here are my thoughts. Here's the creative areas that we came up with. I'd like you to let me know if I was the absolute, or you were the absolute most creative and most engaging storyteller in the world. How would you do this? Give me that prompt. So then it comes back and it tells me what it really needs to know. Act as this. These are the deliverables, etc. So then we feed it in, and usually it's not coming up with anything that's, world changing compared to what we came up with, but it can define it and organize it a whole lot better than we do as a bunch of creatives, right? So it organizes a lot better, and it definitely can open new doors. So we then take that and enhance it to whatever level that we can and move forward. So that's really how we use it, but we use it as an augmentation, not as a replacement in most cases. But think about, like automated email and some of these we're talking 80-90% replacement. We're not talking like, oh, it's an augmentation by 10%.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. That's really, really good. Okay, here's another one.
Okay.
So for SaaS companies, the first 30 days can make or break trust. So in your work with new clients, what best practices help get them from sign up to seeing real value quickly?
Again, it's that people process system. So there it's all process. So you've got to have an onboarding process, and you're absolutely right. So as soon as people say, yes, let's try this. And again, it could be a trial on a simple SaaS software that's consumer based, like our, the script timer AI, it writes the script and puts a voice to the script. If we're not following up with them, and I mean automation, typically that's not a high touch business. I need to be feeding them education and onboard them. You can do this and this and this and make it easy, and this and this and this. And that we really appreciate you and we want you to stay, and throw them an extra gift, because what they're running into is buyer's remorse. As soon as they
Of
click
course.
that button, oh my gosh, was that a mistake? Is this a scam? Did I just spend $29 in the wrong place, or $300? That kind of thing. So we're obviously in, more enterprise sales and that kind of thing. It's a lot more than that. So as soon as they get that feeling, you need to show, I would say, use my epic formula. So I call it the epic story. And this is also in the book, which is empathy, problem, impact, and then the change and the call to action. So EPI. So I understand that this is a challenging time, but let's take a look at the problem you had, which is this, the impact it was having, and the change that we're going to make. And so we're excited that you're on board with us. We're happy. Here's an onboarding process that's been rock solid. We're still open to suggestions, but we're also going to set you up with your own success manager to walk you through every 2 days. You're going to have a call with them that you can join and a webinar every Wednesday. Let's let them feel that support. And that's usually what happens why people stay for 30 days. And then frankly, they'll just keep recurring. The recurring revenue just keeps going. If they have a good experience in that first month, it's incredibly important. Otherwise, they're just going to disconnect. Boom, they're out. You lost them forever.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant stuff. And
What
if
do
you
you
could
think?
wait,
I'm
yeah, go on,
curious.
carry on, yeah.
What do you think? Again, that was what came on, to the top of my head. That's the processes and the onboarding process. There's definitely more, but I am curious. You work with and deal with a lot of SaaS companies. What do you think?
I think I definitely agree with you in the sense where there's a lot of there can be buyer's remorse, specifically, like you say, in the B2B space, where it's not just $29, 29.99 or pounds. In my case, we're talking, amounts bigger than that. So I think for them, it's reminding them why they took the journey in the first place. Because so many times, um, I find it funny because I think money is kind of like, it's an emotional thing, because sometimes when you're looking at money, emotions take over and you actually forget actually why you're doing something in the first place. So for me, I found it's a case where one of the best practices I implement is basically like you said, and I never actually thought of that formula, but maybe that's what I've been doing without thinking about it, is to say, well, hey, actually, why did you make this journey in the first place? And if we go through our proposal, this is what we said we're going to do. And again, we've got risk reversals in there, we've got guarantees in there, everything to try and help allay their concerns within, obviously within within reason, as it were. So I think for me, but definitely is basically reassuring them, and again being there, because and I know, people buy people, so they don't want a case where they deal with you and all of a sudden you just get handed off to someone. And again, I suppose it's difficult, or it depends on the size of the business, but still, they still want to feel that same kind of care and attention that they got when you were trying to make them a client. So it's not just kind of like, you're on now and then move on to the next one. There's always that juggling between making sure that your existing clients are happy, but still not slowing down on acquiring new clients. So I think I've gone a long way around to basically agree with you to say, from my perspective, I think one of the best practices really is making sure that the customer is involved in the journey. And it's not just, okay, you've signed over X amount of thousands of pounds, but actually, this is where you were, this is where you want to get to, and this is how we can help you get there if you trust the process.
Beautifully said. And it's part of what I call a shared journey. Back when you were selling, or when somebody was selling this, they were talking about the shared journey, the shared vision. We are here to solve that problem because we had that as well, and our founder solved it. Now that you have it, let's go down this path together. And it's really important not to, you know, once you had that signing process, that you vanish, because then they feel abandoned, and that's the absolute worst. Now is when the fun starts. Now is when we really kind of build a deeper relationship. Very important. I love it. So it's the shared story, the shared vision.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So you were talking about, everyone knows you as the video guy, basically. But but you're more than that, and you're transitioning really to being a CMO. Well, you are, but I think we're talking about, well, how do I put it? Let me rephrase it this way. How do you, or what do you think you need to do to stop people seeing you just a video guy, but actually also as a fractional CMO? What do you think you need to do to make that happen? I mean, being called a video guy is an absolute credit to you, 100%. But obviously, there's more strands, there's more strings to your bow. So how do you envisage kind of enforcing that latter part to say, hell, yeah, I know I'm the video guy, but actually, there's more ways I can add value, as it were.
What a great question. So it's always toughest when it's ourselves. I think if it was you or another client or a prospect, or not that you're a client, but if it was somebody else that I was helping, I could solve that riddle easily. When it's ourselves, we have so many years invested. It's tougher. We know, it's kind of inside baseball or, inside football.
Yeah.
It's like, I know this and the wing and this and the goalie's going to be, like all these details. I don't care about all that. I just want to win the game. Like we're here to watch some entertainment. So, when you know it so well, you get into these intricacies that are a bother. Part of it is, let me go back to the basics. What would I do at the beginning? So I looked at myself as my own brand, my own customer, and I said, if I'm going to be, I have been CMO for 20 years of my own company and have helped other companies do all this. The main byproduct that's so visual are the videos. So we just thought, hey, this is a video company. They tell great stories. So I leaned into the areas that people really on the next deeper level. How do you tell a story? How do you tell a story that sells? And so that's what I started doing. So that was the first part. And the second is, okay, well, how do I magnify that? Well, I had all those ideas. So let me put some classes out. And now let me put those ideas into a book. And I'm going to turn that into custom AI so people can go and ask the book and ask my classes, basically ask me questions. So all that's coming in the next 60 days with the book. So this person is not just opening up doors and helping us sell, not just creating videos, but really helping us tell our stories so that we sell more. And my hope is that all adds up to, all right, what is that? Well, that's a CMO. That's a chief marketing officer. And certainly bringing on, basically 2 clients that put me in as CMO should help that. So I'm their chief marketing officer, and my team will be creating all the content as the marketing lead. They have some people there that we're going to be keeping, but I will be carrying that title for the virtual reality, the VR AR association, and the AI Association. So I don't know if you knew about that because I just signed the papers last week. So
no, I didn't know that. Well, congratulations, basically.
Thank you. So, all these calls, they're not asking me about videos. They're asking me, how do we grow? What's been happening over here? And I'm saying, let me see the weak points. Let me see your analytics. Let me hear the story that you tell people. And of course, I'm able to poke holes in all of it and find leakage. And why would you be saying that when you're in this day and age? So I get to revamp their entire marketing with storytelling. So we'll, have me back in 6 months or a year. We'll see how it goes. But it looks like it's already
CMO guy now, no longer the video guy, the CMO guy or fractional CMO guy.
So, but yeah, it's hard. But it's hard because after 1,200 commercials and videos, I was the video guy. But what am I actually doing? I'm telling the story of that brand. It is difficult. I think it is still difficult. And it's also something I really like. I really enjoyed my time in Hollywood and that kind of things. It is a little bit of for me, I don't want to say it's a barrier, but it's a little bit of a challenge to just say chief marketing instead of, Hollywood movie producer, which is always fun.
Well, certainly one sounds more glamorous than the other, to be fair. I wouldn't say which one, but certainly one sounds more alluring than the other. But yeah.
Right, I think I know the one. I think I know.
Right, okay, I'm just keeping an eye on the time because I want to make sure that I honor your time because I don't want it to stretch for too long. So I've got a couple more.
Happy to talk.
Thank you. We'll wrap it up. Okay, so now, if you could only keep one metric to prove a story-driven campaign actually moved revenue, which one would you fight to keep? And which KPIs kind of like lost the shine?
To answer that question, I've got to ask a question. So, if it's one KPI out of literally hundreds, one metric, can you give me a bit of a campaign sample here? I mean, are we talking about a video campaign on YouTube? Are we talking about just pure global commercial campaign or what?
I mean, you're the expert here. I mean, you know way more than I do about marketing and campaigns, certainly from that perspective. So I suppose if you could generalize, I like the fact that you're trying to hone in down on one. But I suppose it's, if you could generalize, because what I'm after is the thinking behind it as opposed to the actual KPI, if you know what I mean. So
great question.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Yeah, so thinking behind the KPI that you'd select.
Gotcha. This is one of those. This is one of those Elon Musk interview questions, like how many windows are there in San Francisco? That kind of thing. Let me understand your thinking behind that. To
Yeah.
me, to me, it's I'd have to get to one, but basically, it's all about engagement and
Mm.
conversion. And so, where we see a lot of
Okay.
this is, if you look at social, LinkedIn or Instagram, I had a million impressions. Great, but is it really care about that? That's a nice one. I would call that a vanity metric. So I'm going to kind of
Mm.
cross that off the list. If it's a pure awareness campaign, still nice, but is that my exact audience? And the way I look at it is I'd rather have 1,000 people that really connect, really love, and really could buy whatever this is than 100,000 casual observers, right? I want to really get that message to the right person, right time, because they're my audience. And so I look at it as engagement, and then that would be the first. So that means not just I sent out 50,000 emails, it's these many replied, these many clicked on the action button that I wanted them to go to, and they spent some time there. And then, of course, the conversion, the metric, which is how many took that next step. And I'm not going to even say bot, but I want them to go down that next step. If you think of marketing as either a flywheel, right? Or as a funnel, did they get deeper into the funnel to talk to one of my salespeople or to download the free gift, whatever it might be? How many people took that next step? That's the metric that you can build with. Those are the people that are interested in. Those are the people you can build with, and those are the people that you can convert. So, to me, the metric would be engagement, proof of engagement.
Version. No, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Okay, here's another one. Every SaaS team faces tool sprawl because you've been mentioning also as well that you're implementing a lot of AI into the stuff that you do. But here's a question: if you had to slim your stack to just two essentials, what tools would you keep and why?
What a question. 2 tools.
Yeah, you only get two.
All right. The only way that a team, again, I'm going to look at my company and larger companies.
Sure.
The only way that you can really stay on track is with project management. You need a project management system of some kind. Otherwise, you have multiple people doing Google Docs or Microsoft 360, blah, 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 blah. I need one place where all our information lies. It's movable, it's shareable, and it can move down the line, meaning it gets progress, add my special sauce to it. The next person does, somebody reviews it, and then it's released. So
Of
project
course.
management system is tool number one for absolutely for a kind of a B2B business like us. The second, again, I don't want to be as general as CRM because CRM is really now just marketing automation. If
Mm.
I can be as broad as saying my marketing automation system, then I would say that because it's sort of all encompassing. That's the email, and that can do posting and help create content at this point, as well as posting and pushing it out, but also keeping track of customers, the touches, how many touches we need to sell, the metrics there, the analytics. How long is a sales cycle? What's the lifetime value, of the customer? So true marketing and sales automation would be the second. And again, if I had to get rid of everything and just get those two, they're not paying me. Maybe they should, but I would go with this point because we just did a trial and I'm liking it. I would go with ClickUp for the project management. It's got a lot of benefits for a company my size. And as far as marketing automation, honestly, we're running multiple. So I don't want to name just one, but everybody
Sure.
has their favorite.
Sure. No, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And here's the flip side to that. So in the raft of tools that you have, which one feels fragile where you're kind of hoping it doesn't break? You don't have to name
Wow.
any names. Don't name any names, of course, but unless you want to, absolutely. But which one do you feel like is a bit on thin ice? Like I want it to break, because it doesn't really perform that well every now and then.
It's I want it to break or wouldn't mind if it breaks. Is that the
No,
question?
no, you don't want it to break.
Oh, so it's really critical if I don't
Yeah,
want it to go down.
exactly. Yeah,
Gotcha.
absolutely. Yeah.
If Man, I hope we don't have a hacker out there, but if Google Drive goes down, there's some
Mm,
problems. There's some real problems. So, we have backups, we have things, we have things all over the place. But for years we put things on Google Drive and terabytes of data at this point. I mean, think about it. We're creating commercial
yeah, of course.
campaigns, designs.
Yeah.
So, we could have chosen, Dropbox, we could have chosen different cloud providers, but I actually went with Google way back then instead of AWS back then. And now again, it is all backed up. We're in good shape.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
if Google Drive all of a sudden went down, yeah, I might be out there, digging holes. And I don't know what I would be doing next. Of course, I'd recreate it, but that would be the problem. That's mission.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. Right, okay, and the last one. Well, one of the last two. Right, let's see which one I'm going to pick for you. No, I think I'll be nice. I'll keep it to the last one. I'll keep it to the last one because I'm just looking at the time. I want to make sure that you're fresh for your next appointment.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So, I mean,
I'd like just ask both questions. Let's, 10,
yeah,
10,
yeah,
hopefully
sure.
this gets cut, but 10 minutes or so.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll after two then. So the one I was going to skip. So scaling can mean in many cases 20-hour days or more. Even so. Looking back, what single ops habit would you? So what single ops habit would have spared you the most stress?
What single ops habit? Single ops, like single operation habit?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Would have spared me the most stress. The habit would have been the right person. If I had a true builder of, project management system, kind of / CRM, that kind of thing, I think it took us a lot longer. We did a lot of customization, ended up being, moderately expensive to do these things, where if we dug in and looked deeper in an evaluation, if I had a little bit more of an expert in that area, I wouldn't have had to create literally years upon years now of the initial augmentation that we did and customization, which now always has to be done, layering on top of that. So if I had a real expert in place, that now could run AI tools, that could run the operation tools, that would have made a big difference for us.
Awesome, makes sense. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, I guess, as they say. Well, we certainly say over here,
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
okay. And my final one. So, I mean, in your head, you know where you want to be in the next sort of 2 years to 5 years. I mean, back in the day, we would normally say, what's your 10-year plan, but these days, the way everything is evolving so quickly, it's crazy that anyone would have a 10-year plan because we don't know what even tomorrow's going to look like. But at the same time, being a leader and a founder of a successful business, and knowing in your head you've got sort of benchmarks of where you want to be in the next 2 years. So taking that into view, what would you say are the biggest bottlenecks holding you like now from stopping you to get there, basically? What are your challenges, the biggest bottlenecks that's hamstringing you from getting to where you want to be in the next 2 years?
That's what a great question. So I'd like to start that answer with, where we are and where I want to go. So I want to be 400%, 4x where we are in the next 2 years. And there's something that I learned over the years, having been a salesperson, dealing with a lot of founders have a longer vision. Salespeople have a real-time right now vision, the best, they want to close the deal right now. So I sort of fall into both camps, but I can go out about 2 years, maybe 3. And then beyond that, I'm not great at that. I don't have a 10-year plan. I don't have a 20-year plan. I have a general idea of that beach I want to be sitting on and be very busy. I don't see, retiring as the ultimate goal. I see the ultimate goal as doing what I really enjoy doing every day and being challenged, keep this mind pliable and working. So that said, do the things that I really enjoy doing, do it relative to the income and the people that I can help. It's 4x. The bottleneck to get there, this is really interesting because we are in this country especially, there's 2 things that are colliding right now, which is technology taking off like a rocket. And we're talking about AI for most of this. So it's taking off faster than anything we've ever seen, frankly, on Earth, right? Other than maybe some viruses. I'm not even,
Of course, yeah, no,
that has,
yeah.
spread faster. But as far as technology or product or adoption, cars and the internet and access and high speed and things like that, wireless, all far, far slower than this. This is just exponential growth. So what you do today, it'll be different in 3 months or 6 months. There'll be so many more tools or options or ways to do it. It'll be, far less expensive, at least now. they'll be less expensive. And then when they start ratcheting up their prices and we're dependent on them, it could be different. But that's one, it's a technology barrier, which choice to make. And that's why I said, what are the problems I have? What can I solve that are persistent and we can solve? Let me solve those now. But I'm not going to get so married to one system that I can't change later. So that's one area. And then the other is kind of an economic, kind of reckoning that's happening right now, which is, right now we have, tariffs and we just have so many uncertainties. So it's really slowed corporate buying. You've got, our government went through this process of, layoffs and, reduction and things like that. And that has a ripple effect. So you have these two things happening at once, technology taking off that probably will replace people. You've got literally, people being laid off. So what's going to take over? It's an important time to make the right choice. The bottleneck can be what decision to make. And I think the problem is not making a decision. So the biggest bottleneck is sitting back and watching, and the bottleneck is not doing anything but wait and see. To me, wait and see is the biggest losing proposition right now. It's go do it, go adopt this. You like GPT, run with it. You like Perplexity, run with it. You like Manus, run with it. Whatever it is, your favorite tools, or you like Salesforce because it has 1, 2, or 3 integrated in, run with it. Get as far as you can. And again, this truly is why I'll circle back on this, because the book is so important right now, because we're hitting this AI era. You have to have established your foundation, your story, how you sell, how you approach the market the right way, or you will literally be invisible in a couple of years. This is not the time to relax and wait and see. The bottleneck is that. The thing to do is run, establish yourself, establish your brand, go out there in full charge ahead.
Wow. Really, really good answer. And I think the key thing to underscore there is, like you said, when you have lots of uncertainty, people definitely would, want to sit back and watch, but there's an opportunity cost for not doing anything. And in many cases, not doing anything is a lot more costly than people realize, so very well, very, very well said. And again, I've really loved the conversation, Maury. And guys, like I say, he's got his new book out, Selling in an AI World, Your Stories Your Superpower. I'll put the links in the description below. So, and I'm sure it's on Amazon and Audible, so everyone can go out there and buy it or listen to it. But then again, like I say, I knew when Maury agreed to come on that I wouldn't be able to get everything, I would want to get off the back of one conversation. There's just way too much experience and expertise to condense it to 40 minutes. So he's already agreed off camera, and I'm holding him accountable in front of everyone that he'll be wanting to be back when I ask him to be back, essentially. So you guys hold him to that. But Maury, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure our viewers will feel the same thing in terms of the benefit they've gotten from everything you've said by way of your experience. So guys, that's it for this episode of Advantage Point. If you found today's conversation useful, share it with your team, subscribe for more insights on what the best companies like Maury's are doing differently in 2025 and beyond. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in and be well.